So it's really about your nervous system. Fear doesn't run the show anymore for me. It's information.
Mhm.
I used to think fear meant stop. And now I see it means pay attention. So fear doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you care. And fear isn't the enemy. Avoidance is the enemy.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
Welcome back to the Limitless Minds podcast. Today's guest is Dawn Whitney, a transformational mindset and well-being coach, national keynote speaker, and founder and CEO of Elevate X Leadership Collective. With over 30 years of experience in healthcare recruitment, executive search, and leadership coaching, Dawn has built and successfully sold multiple companies. Her work is deeply shaped by her own personal journey with mental health, which informs her authentic, grounded approach to leadership and well-being. She is also a former host of the Apple 5-star rated podcast, Light from the Rabbit Hole, which reached a huge global audience. Today, Dawn helps leaders turn fear into fuel and lead with greater calm, clarity, and purpose. I think you all are going to really enjoy this one. Awesome. Well, welcome, Limitless Minds family. It's the first podcast of the year. We have our good friend here, Dawn Whitney, who I had a chance to meet last year, and we're excited having the podcast. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Honored.
No, awesome. And we feel grounded. We actually, off air, we did a little grounding exercise, breathing exercise. We're feeling good, right, Harry? You know what I mean, Harry?
Let's go. Breath work. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
Yeah. Harry looked at me like, oh, whoa, we're doing that. We're doing this thing. Okay, let's do it. It was great.
Yeah.
Love it.
I don't think we've done that before. So before
right. Not before. I think, I feel like, we might've done some visualization, maybe some breath work, or at least people have talked about it. But when you actually do it, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dawn, for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I do it. I love it so much.
Oh, so good. So Dawn, for the people meeting you the first time, we can go through your resume and all that, and that's great. I think that'll come out,
Sure.
in the conversation. But tell us about your heart, even before we talk about your resume. Like, what are you passionate about?
Oh boy, such a great question. This season of my life where I'm at now, I am in my late 50s and everything changes. I think when you get to be a certain age, things that mattered so much when you were in your 20s, 30s, even 40s seem like a distant memory. So who I am today is so different than who I was I would say even 10 years ago, honestly. And, I'm someone who's lived a lot of life while building businesses. And I'm deeply ambitious and deeply human, but I've built companies, but I've also sat literally on the bathroom floor praying for clarity.
Mm.
And, what matters most to me is helping people to stop abandoning themselves in the name of success. And I was one of those people for many, many years. So I think for me now, there's just a very different feeling about what I do. And the cost of getting to, I guess, where I am now really has a lot more to do with the internal work that I've had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people see the outcome, but they don't see the inner negotiations that we have to make throughout our lifelong experiences as we get to the next level. So I love that you started this off with not really talking about what's Elevate X and, how many years have you been doing? I love that you both are starting this with really what's this all about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I think it's interesting. I mean, like you mentioned, certainly you've evolved over the last 10 years, 20 years, et cetera. I've always had these, you have conversations with people, maybe about someone else, and that maybe somebody's like, you know what, man, DJ's changed, man. Like he's just changed, and like it's negative, right? But the reality is that, like,
Yeah.
I got, like my response to that is, well, hell yeah, he's changed, or she's changed, or I've
Yes.
changed. Like
Right.
A, who hasn't? But B, if you're not kind of consciously thinking about how you're reinventing yourself here and there, every now and again, maybe, I don't know if it's every decade, I don't know if it's every 5 years, I don't have a timeline for that, but I mean, like, you should be evolving, right? We're human becomings, right? And so, like,
Yes.
you should be kind of evolving, right? And honestly on purpose, in my opinion. So I just think that's great. And we're all, we were just before this thing with Mario, our producer, who's kind of behind the scenes here, like we were just talking about, you know, kids and when I had my first daughter, and because
Yep.
one of our wonderful team members is on maternity leave and is taking some time. We were just talking about her and just kind of how fast time flies, right? And so I'm certain that
It
I've changed
does.
multiple times, or evolved multiple times, have shed different skin, if you will, a number of times since
Mhm.
my 30s and 20s and so on and so forth. So certainly respect
So
that,
true.
to be expected.
I think I think too, it really comes down to, for me anyway, and I feel like this is more prevalent with women, but the two of you can tell me if you feel the same. I really outgrew the proving mindset and I moved into purpose.
Hmm.
Mm,
And there's just moments of misalignment that happen that make that clarity really unavoidable. And I just think I wasn't so much burned out as I was misaligned.
mhm.
Hmm.
I realized that I couldn't keep building externally while ignoring what was breaking internally.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's right. And so that's why this company exists, is because it's not a business idea. It's actually a response to a calling that I had.
Wow.
So it's very different.
Yeah.
It's very different than the other companies I've had.
So you said you moved from proving to purpose. When did that transpire? When did you see that evolution?
Yeah, I would say it started to happen many years ago, but I wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
I think that's the thing. We're always rushing and trying to get to the next thing and make the next achievement and get the next degree and the next certification and all the accolades, all the things, all the proving. And we don't stop to sit down and just rest and say, wait a second, why am I in this hamster wheel? What is happening? What is actually going on around me? So for me, and DJ, you and I talked about this a little bit when we first met, is
Mhm.
been a lot of things going on in my personal life with my son, who suffers from mental health and addiction issues. He has his whole life. He's 31 and he started getting into all of that when he was 14. So we've had a lifelong battle walking alongside him and his addiction since I can remember. And the first time was when I actually had started to launch my first company. And I kept thinking, well, I'm just going to put that over here and I'm not going to talk about it. And it's not going to become a part of my leadership and the company I'm trying to build, because that's work.
Mm.
And this is, and I'm doing the personal stuff over here. And this is the work stuff over here. We try to
Yeah.
separate
Separator, right.
a lot, which we know doesn't
Right.
happen very well. So I think it actually started this proving that I could run a business, be a good mom, be a good wife, be a good friend, all the things we do as women, to owning, actually started in the depths of all of the chaos with my son. So it's probably been around for 20 years at least.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just started paying attention
Right.
to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like proving. It's like it's you're doing a lot. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that it's because you mentioned, like, hey, as women, this is how we feel, or this is kind of our perspective.
Mhm.
Hey, I don't know how you guys feel. I mean, I don't think I'm sure there's probably some level of nuances and differences in how we receive this stuff, but like,
Mhm.
as a man, as a male, whether it be a leader of your household or a leader of an organization or just a contributor at a company, like you're constantly being challenged on what you've been able to accomplish. You know what I mean? And
Yes,
it
I
correlates to like
do.
how you're able to provide for your family, and
Right. It's
many
so
of us,
it's so different.
yeah, we want to be able to provide for our family.
That's right.
That might be you make
Mhm.
money, that might be whatever. And if you're not able to do that, if you're not the breadwinner or whatever it might be, like it kind of like it's part of it kind of chips away at your ego and this masculinity,
Yes,
all that sort of stuff. And so, and
absolutely.
you were making a good point about like just kind of the time as of the essence a lot of times, you know what I mean? Where especially as a founder,
Mhm.
Mm,
and started a company, and a lot of times it's like, it's either it's a combination of cash flow and time that like is what you're kind of competing with, right? And
yeah.
when time's a component of that, you feel like you're never moving fast enough. And if you're never moving fast enough, you're never taking that time to stop, rest, celebrate wins, reflect on lost
Mm,
opportunity or whatever. And so I'm really curious, actually, and let's get right into some of these actionable things. Like, I'm really curious if somebody's trying to, like, hey, I subscribe to this rest component, but admittedly, I don't really know how to do it. You know what I mean? I don't really like, how can I actually take time away, or time, time, not necessarily time off, but like, how do I separate and start to sort of compartmentalize like all the proving and make sure I'm putting in
mm,
the purpose stuff? Like, how do I actually even do it when time's such a
yeah.
challenge?
Yeah. I think honestly that there's no boardroom that prepares you, like in my situation with my son, how to navigate being a good mom and dealing with the addictions and the things that we were dealing with, and still running and growing a successful business. So there was a lot of, so I think there at every stage, there's a lot of, proving, whether you're proving to yourself as an entrepreneur or to your point, like you're trying to prove that like, hey, I'm the breadwinner. I need to have control of this situation. Right. But control's really an illusion.
Hmm.
Presence is your power.
Mm,
Hmm.
Presence
like
is
that.
your power. And so I feel like when love, fear, and this helplessness can coexist, that's actually when those seasons teach you how to lead without fixing everything and taking control. And, I learned that strength isn't pushing through. It's staying present. It's taking the small steps to just breathe. It's kind of like, sometimes people think being grounded equals calm, but being grounded equals being connected. So grounded looks like when you're taking a minute to take a breath before you respond, instead of feeling like you have to prove in that moment that you have the answers and that you know everything and that you can say yes to everything. It's taking a breath before you respond, and it's asking, what's mine to carry and what isn't. And I think that this happens a lot in all kinds of clients that I work with that are, I primarily work with women, but I do have men in my groups. And it's interesting because it's similar to what you just said, that there's a lot of proving mindset of over explaining and justifying and having to respond to this constant urgency. And, your nervous system always tells the truth before the words do. So you, right? So you have to
Yep.
stop and pause.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's power in that pause for sure.
There's
Definitely.
so much power in that.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
so much power in that. And we just don't do it enough.
for sure. So what do you think that like the part of your story, because you've built multiple businesses, you've had tons of success, you're now pouring into women the way you are in leadership.
Mm.
What part of your story do people not know? Do they miss that they may not find in the title?
Oh boy, there's so much. I'm pretty much an open book at this point. I mean, I talk about a lot of the mistakes that I made. I
Mhm.
talk about all of the things that really define me. I think the turning the fear. I mean, I actually have a keynote around transforming fear into fuel for growth. I
Mm.
think DJ, you and I talked about that.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, is the thing that really motivates me the most in when I'm working with leaders, is there's so much fear out there, fear of trying to help you prepare and trying to not make the mistakes, and just the fear really is running the show.
Mm.
And so for me, I think, one of the things that people don't know is that obviously I am an open book about all of the mistakes I've made as a leader, and growing up and wanting to be the center stage, the person that everyone went to and saw, and the applause and all the things. I grew up as a dancer and a singer, and I was on stage. And so everything about my mindset of how I'd been raised was performative.
Mm.
And I took that into my businesses and into my employers that I worked for. And I was so misguided and didn't realize that I don't need to perform.
Mm.
I just need to actually stop and be present. and connect with the fear.
Mm-hmm.
That the fear doesn't run the show, that my presence and my pause runs it.
Mm.
So I think that was really an interesting thing that have learned, and that not many people realize that I've come a really long way in my own personal journey, which I think has allowed me to be the kind of coach that I am now and the kind of speaker that I am now.
That's great. Is there
Yeah.
something that scares the crap out of you today?
You know what? That's such a great question. No,
Okay.
there is nothing that scares the crap out of me anymore.
Yeah.
Nothing. I feel so comfortable in my skin now. Obviously, we wish that we could have felt that when we were in our 20s and 30s,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't feel that at all anymore. And it's so interesting because I can walk into a room, and I do a lot of, one-on-one coaching in these programs that I do with these big organizations, and I can spot the person
Yeah.
in the room that is scared to death, and just by their body language.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're over explaining and they're justifying when they're talking. And there's this response to be the smartest person in the room and to be front and center, because that was me.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
was me. And so now I look at that with empathy and compassion, not judgment. I look at that as, wow, this is a great opportunity, because I get to pull up my seat next to that person and literally, and even, figuratively, put my arm around them and say, hey, you're doing all the right things, and I'm going to help you with your nervous system, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what's telling the truth before you even say a word.
Yeah.
So the fear for me has subsided in my experience, because when I'm getting ready to walk on a stage, and I know the two of you are like this too, because you do a lot of this work, I don't say, oh, I'm so nervous. I say, I'm so excited to be here. I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait to get out there. I can't wait to be the vessel that the message comes through, so that one person in this room can hear it. Maybe one person is sitting there dealing with the same crap that I have dealt with and am dealing with my son in this lifelong journey of mental health and addiction. Maybe there's something that lands on their heart that makes them think, well, you know what? She sees me and I don't have to perform.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
I real quick, Harry, I was gonna say that it's interesting that the first time we spoke, you have such a great energy yourself, and it doesn't surprise
Thank
me that
you.
you can't read, and I mean, it's no surprise that you read energy well. I think
Yeah.
that's your superpower. I really felt that the first time we spoke, and I'm sure a lot of people appreciate that about you. I would
Yeah.
also note that, like, one of the things that I'm fearful of, and maybe you can help me with this, is that, I think as a leader, you want to lead well. And
Hmm.
and I think a lot of times, like, people, if I say that statement, I think people automatically assume that I'm talking about my business or businesses or whatever it is. And of course you want to do
Hmm.
that. Um, but I think what keeps me up at night is, like, making sure I'm leading well at home. And we have 5
Mm.
kids ages 7 to 17, and
Oh, wow.
the older they get, the more I realize, and I'm humbled, like, I don't really have a lot of control over this. And so
Yep.
I am fearful of, like, and prayerful too, that I make the right
Mhm.
decisions as a leader, as I lead my family.
Mm.
And but it's also scary, if I'm being, completely honest. So any advice you would
Yep.
give to the parents out there that are leading their family?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question too. Well, you're asking good ones. Well, I would say there was a really long period of time where my husband and I were trying to fix the situation,
Mm,
or you hear the term helicopter, helicopter everything, watching over and taking care and making sure. And I see it a lot with friends of mine who have kids, and I don't ever judge, but I step back and I think, oh boy, you've just got to let go
mhm.
and let God.
Yeah.
And I am just a big believer of that. When you are holding on so tightly to your children, or to this notion of the type of parent you think you're supposed to be, or the type of leader you're supposed to be,
Mm,
or the type of employee, or, well, I really want that job and you don't get the job. They are all pieces of information and signs that are subtle obstacles, or maybe big obstacles, that are actually detours to the right direction. We just don't know it. So when we're holding on so tightly to making sure we're the best parent and making sure our kids don't get into trouble and do drugs and do all the things, we are missing, we're not present, again, just like leadership, we're not in the moment, and we're missing the opportunity to watch them grow and make mistakes. And yes, our job is to guide and to love and to nurture. But in our case, I was holding on so tightly that when he wasn't living with us and he was on the street and he was homeless, it was 20 minutes from our home in downtown Portland, sleeping in a tent, I would go and drive around and try to find him in the rain. And I can't tell you what that does to your body, to your nervous system, to your mindset, to all the things, while I'm still trying to run a business.
Right.
And show up in these meetings and act like, hey, everybody, let's get going. Let's talk about all your goals and our strategic planning.
Right.
And then I had to go flip and put the other hat on and become the mom that's frantically driving around town trying to find their child. And I remember sitting in the car thinking, like, one time, if I find him, then what? What am I going to do? It's his path. It's his journey. It's his soul contract.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with me. And I can't save him. I can't fix him. All I can do is be there and be ready to listen and be ready to support him. And when he's ready to come home, and I don't mean physically come home, I mean come home to himself, come home to us, to his family, to the people that love him, we'll have the light on. We'll be there. But until then, I can drive around in my car. I can try to save him. I can drag him into treatment. I can do all the things that we try to do. And he's going to do exactly where he's at right now. He's going to go right back, and he's going to do the opposite of what we want. So make sure you're not holding on too tightly, DJ.
Okay. No, that's great advice. Very good advice. I appreciate that.
Let them fly, DJ.
Let them fly. Fly.
Let him fly. I mean, you've got a lot to let fly. There's like 5 of them. That's a lot.
That's right.
My fears, y'all have more of these. Like, you can keep going. I'm just kidding. Chat. No, but DJ, you'd asked the question, to Dawn about, like, what is she, is there anything she's fearful of? And it got me thinking, like, what am I fearful of, and so on and so forth. And I'm thinking about those that might be listening. It might be surprised that, like, Dawn's answer is like, nothing, like, not anymore, that kind of thing. But, like,
yeah,
it might be important to maybe even, it seems kind of, maybe it seems obvious to people, but I bet you people are like, well, like, how do you define fear? You know what I mean? What is fear and what is not fear, right? Like, what's, fear versus anxiety, fear versus, uncertainty. I don't know. Right. But, like, how would you define what fear is? Like, how do you know when fear is, like, positive, like, it's kind of giving information and calling for awareness? And when do you know that fear is, like, not so positive and it's, like, hijacking, you, right? And it's kind of creating self-sabotage and all these different things. Like, how would you?
Yeah. How you kind of define it. I mean, I would say that there's informational fear. So that's the fear that prepares you and gets you to be very clear and be very thoughtful. And then there's hijacking fear, which doesn't ask for preparation. It demands your protection. So I think leaders don't fail because they feel fear. They struggle when they don't know which fear to listen to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's really about your nervous system. I mean, I just, for me, when I say I don't have fear, like, fear doesn't run the show anymore for me. It's information. So I used to think fear meant stop. And now I see it means pay attention.
Wow.
Yeah. So fear doesn't mean you're not ready. It means you care. And fear isn't the enemy. Avoidance is the enemy. And one of the reasons that I got really inspired about this topic is I'm a huge fan of Sarah Blakely, CEO of Spanx.
Yeah.
right? Do you both follow her?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep.
Obsessed,
Yeah.
obsessed, like a dream to meet her for me. I heard her on something, I think it was a podcast, and I heard her talking about how she was raised and and I don't know if the two of you heard this, where her and her younger brother would come home from school and her dad at the dinner table would say, "What did you fail at today?"
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen her talk about that. Yep. Yep.
And she would say, yes. And she would say, well, I didn't get a B, I got a B, or I didn't get an A on my math test. So there was this whole feeling in her home that fear and failure just helps you prepare
Mm.
because it's specific, it's calm, it's actionable. But when it's loud and it's vague, that's when it tries to hijack you.
Mhm.
So I'll give you a quick example because I think this is actually really a good one and it just came up. I was working with a senior leader who was about to present a major strategy shift to her executive team. She was scared to death to do it. She kept second guessing herself all the time. And she told me that she would feel this tightness in her chest when she was preparing for the meeting. And it wasn't really a panic, although she felt panic. I was talking to her about it being a signal. So I said, here's what I want you to ask yourself. What exactly are you worried about? What's really going on? What are you actually worried about? And then get really specific about the answer. And she said, well, I'm not clear on how this decision is going to be received and how it impacts these two teams that I have. I haven't pressure tested any of the assumptions, right? So that fear is calm, clear, and actionable. That makes sense.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yep.
So she adjusted one of the slides and that fear didn't stop her. It actually sharpened her. So that is informational fear.
It's really helpful.
Okay. But how she had been showing up and what she came to me with was, and I'm sure we've all heard this. What if they think I'm in over my head? What if they don't think I'm the right person for this? What if this blows up my credibility? All these what ifs in this moment of trying to convince yourself that maybe you're not ready. So those are all not specific, not actionable. They're vague. They're just like all about catastrophic outcomes. And from that, her body was having these, I mean, I don't know. I felt this way before. Shallow breathing, racing thoughts. You're not sleeping at night, or you have this urge to over explain the message. And that fear is not about the work. It's about identity.
Yep.
And so it doesn't ask for preparation. It's demanding that you protect it. It's hijacking. It's the hijacking feeling,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. That's really good. I mean, like,
Super helpful.
the reason I was asking is I was recently having a conversation with like some younger athletes. They weren't,
Mm,
teenagers, right? High school
right.
athletes. And one of the things that came up a lot was fear, right? And I was kind of really curious. I was like, well, how would you guys define fear? And they kind of defined it in their own ways and whatnot. I was like, well, what's the opposite of fear? What do you guys think the opposite of fear is? And most of them said, what do you think they said? Actually, I'll ask you what you think they said. What's the opposite of fear for the average person? What would they?
Well, they probably said success
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
joy, excitement.
Okay.
or confidence.
Okay. The word that came up a lot was courage. Was the opposite of fear.
Oh, courage. Yeah, that
Which
makes
which
sense.
kind of makes sense, right? It's like, well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but like what's interesting is we talked about it further. I think what we came up with is that courage isn't necessarily the opposite of fear. Courage is really like an action in the presence of fear.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like
hmm.
courage is more of
Yes.
courage isn't really to me the absence of fear. It's really the action and presence of it. I feel like because I think fear is more of an emotional piece, right? Like more emotional
Yes.
response. So when I'm thinking about what the opposite of fear is, I think it needs to be an emotional response. What's like an opposite emotional response of fear? And the word we all came up with together, and I was honestly in real time, was trust. Was
Ooh,
trust.
love it.
Like
Yes.
trust your response in that emotional state can be like instead of hey, I'm not safe, right? It's kind of more like hey, I can handle whatever happens, right? Or I can trust said process
Yes.
I'm working on for months. I'm fearful right now, but let me trust myself in this moment, right? Let me
I
trust the
love
process
it.
Yeah.
I put into it. So that was
You,
something that came out of that I thought was really interesting talking to the 14, 15, 16 year olds, right? Is like
So
working
great.
through like, well, what is fear? Okay, cool. What's the opposite of that? It's this. Well, is it though? And then
What
like
did
I
they
actually
love
what did
it.
they say about what did they say their definition for fear was? Like, what were some of the words they used? Do you
You
remember?
know what? I literally have my notes right here, because that's what I was reading off of. Fear would say, "I'm not safe," is something they said. They said,
Okay.
Yeah.
"I don't know if I can handle this. Um, I
Mm.
might lose," 'cause these were athletes. "I
Yeah,
might
yeah,
lose, I might get benched." You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah,
Yeah.
a
yeah,
lot of it was attached to the stories, like the narratives in their
yeah,
head
yeah,
about
yeah.
In their head.
Interesting.
outcome,
Yes.
like a future outcome. Obviously, it hadn't happened yet, it's a future outcome. So they were telling stories, like we all do. We're wired this way, right? Something happened,
Yes, we are.
kind of hypothesize what's somebody going to say now, or what's going to be the result now, what's the ripple effect of that, and it's and every
Yeah.
in our everyday life. You have a sales call, you trying to read the person,
Mhm.
you're like, I wonder how they responded to that. They probably thought this, and they might have thought that, and we're probably not going to close it because of this. You start, like, it's all narrative,
Mhm.
right? And so
Right.
that those are the
And
things.
what you
Mhm.
oh, sorry to interrupt you here,
You're good.
Harry.
You're
What
good.
I wanted to tell you this though, like what you did was so beautiful. There was one piece to add. So you named it,
Mhm.
this is the fear, or is this the fear, or is this the truth? So you named it and you chose a different outcome or a different best feeling thought or a different step. But the middle part is locate it. Where in your body do you feel it?
Mm,
Mhm.
And this again, what is so amazing about this is that it helps ground you and bring you back into the present. Because a lot of times, if you think about fear in just that word, there's irrational fear and rational fear. So, is a bear chasing you? Are you in danger? Right? That's a rational fear. Or are you like getting ready for this presentation or getting ready to go out on the field and play this game or this sport and you have nerves around what's going to happen because you don't want to fail.
Right.
That's irrational fear. So we can't eliminate fear, but I think if we name it and we locate it in our bodies, we were like, "Ooh, I feel it in my heart. I feel it in my head, or I feel it somewhere. It's
yeah.
somewhere else." Then we can get ourselves grounded, and it's almost like it snaps us back into reality. Like, actually, there is not a bear chasing us, and we're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
And then we choose a different best feeling thought. And so that is awesome that you did that. And that only piece in there to interject would be, where do you feel it? How are instead of how do you feel it, where do you feel it in your body?
Mhm.
I think that
Mhm.
goes I think that goes along with the pause part too. We're so quick to
Yeah.
get to the solution that if we just stop and feel for a second,
Yes.
it allows for clarity. And yeah, that's it. That
I agree.
I appreciate you adding that for sure. I mentioned how you're a good read of energy. There's been situations, I was just in one recently where somebody, you could tell something was off with this person, like
Mm,
something was almost on their mind, but I didn't feel
mm,
I didn't necessarily feel that there was something on their mind at the time I was with them, but I knew there was something different about the interaction. And then
mm.
towards the end of the time we were together, they opened up. And after they opened up and we had a great conversation, I stepped back and I go, "Man, I felt something was off, but I didn't know what signs or signals to look for." You know what I mean? To be able to maybe,
Mm.
instead of having that conversation at the end of our interaction, maybe we could have had it earlier because they were a little nervous, I think, about bringing up a couple things that they wanted to talk through. So, how do I find those signals as a leader that shows that maybe somebody's energy's off, or they're feeling a certain amount of pressure, or there's something on their mind?
Yeah. Was it somebody did you feel like they were in the proving mindset, or do you feel like it was something personal that was
It it
happening
it
or?
was a it was just a it was like one of those situations where they probably didn't know how I was going to respond to their question, or even how to formulate the question. So it was kind of one of those questions that you want to ask somebody that you're like, I don't know how to come about and have this conversation with them. So that's
They were they and I'm asking just so I have more
yeah.
information. Were they someone you were going to interview, or they were someone that you were working with, like a client,
Somebody
or
no, somebody that I work with, like that I work closely with.
and you could tell that there was something off
Yeah, just
in
like
how
just
they
just like the
like
the
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 engagement.
the interactions were fine, but there was something that was saying, "Huh, there's something like that feels different." You know what I mean? It just, and I didn't know at the time, and then it was it wasn't even anything big, but it could but one especially once they got, they asked the questions and we talked through it. But,
Yeah.
for them, it was weight they were carrying and probably not knowing, how is DJ gonna
Mm,
respond to it? How do I formulate,
yeah.
this question? And I've had that before too, where you wanna have a conversation with somebody you trust, care about whatever it is, yet you don't know how to really engage and start the conversation. And so my energy is
Mm.
probably different coming into that. But I want to try to, what I thought about afterwards is like, man, I wish I would have noticed it and
Oh,
acted on what I was feeling. But
right.
I don't know if the signs were clear enough or what to even look for as a leader to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to start asking better questions when I feel
Mhm.
that type of energy.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about it is that you knew instinctively there was something off.
Yes.
There was an energy connection or lack of connection that was off. And were you in person
Yeah.
or were you
Yeah, yeah,
virtual?
yeah. Of
Okay.
course.
Yeah. So I've done a ton of coaching on this and I received a lot of training on nonverbal cues and body language. And I'm wondering, what was the nonverbals? Did you pay attention to those?
No. No,
Yeah.
it was literally like it didn't I didn't realize that, and I noticed it until we started having the conversation, then I looked back and was like, "Oh, I did feel that there was something there, I
Mm,
just didn't pay attention to it."
you didn't pay attention to
That's
it.
where I
Yeah.
was kinda, like, disappointed in
Yep.
myself, like, "Man, I wish I would've acknowledged it sooner."
Yes. And sometimes we say things when we figure that out, we say things to the person like, wow, I wish you would have told me. But that's always one of those things that is not the right thing to
Mhm.
say. The right thing to say is, I wish I had been more perceptive and been paying attention
Yeah. Yep.
to your body language, to the things you weren't saying, because all of that is information that
Mhm.
we're always assessing. So if you were doing an in-person meeting with this person and you could tell that they seemed off, my recommendation is to stop and to say, hey, I know we have all of this to go through today and we need to talk about all these things. And then you just kind of lean in and just say, but let's just chat openly
Mhm.
about what's going on for you today.
Yeah. Yeah.
How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Yeah. That
And
would've been huge. Yeah,
getting
that's right.
getting the answer back of, you know, yes, I am having a hard time, or this is what's going on. And maybe they're going to give you more information than you want to have, but it doesn't matter because your job in that moment is to be present
Mhm.
and to put aside the tasks and the to-do lists and all the things that you need to talk about and actually lean into the uncomfortableness
Mm.
because people will stop and say, I
Yep.
am having a tough time.
Right.
Let me tell you about it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
that.
it's
Right.
no, that's super helpful, and I think that as leaders, asking more questions, if I feel that
Mm,
something's off, like you said,
yep.
tell me about how things are going, like,
Yes.
what's good, or what's
Right.
not good, but just
Right.
giving them the
Exactly.
space to be able to open up, and, because, I mean, what I am proud of is that I have relationship with, whether it's family or, colleagues where we do have open conversations and they feel like they can
Mhm.
ultimately, but, um just being able to have the space and give the space for that is, I think, super important. So that's helpful. Thank you.
And
Right.
I think you create some of that space, like,
You
you don't
do.
I don't think really think you create some of that you create that space overnight or in one conversation, right? I think that's earned space you create, like, this equity you build over time, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where you're checking in when you actually have a sense that things are going great, for the momentum's really awesome, and
Mhm.
you're checking
Yeah.
in then, right? And you're checking in kind of in some of the dead space, and you're, having one-on-one conversations, small, big, micro, macro, personal,
Right.
business, whatever. So that way, like, when you notice something that's, like, kind of mission critical, like, yo, like,
Mhm.
we gotta
Mhm.
talk, yeah, we gotta talk about, I gotta put this on the table.
Right.
Like, you've kind of earned that space. I know there's been times where, like, because I haven't really put that time and equity in, or maybe
Mhm.
body. Then when it's like, sure enough,
Yes.
here we are, we got to have like a tough conversation, or I got to
Yeah.
ask the tough question or whatever. Then you don't even really want to go there because you're like, dang, we haven't even
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
don't
And
even
they haven't
know.
Yes.
deposited enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
it's
not
almost
enough
like
equity in that. Yeah.
'cause, like, then you feel like that person be like, "Man, you don't even know me like that." You know what I mean? That kind of vibe of like, "You don't even know me." Like,
Right.
how you asking like, "You don't even know me like that?" You know, where somebody like you really kind of built this over
Yeah.
time,
Hmm.
it's like, of course you're asking me how I'm doing because you know me and I know you, and I can tell that like something's up. Like, what's good? Like,
Yeah.
let me help. Like, let me jump in. Like, what's
Hmm.
the deal?
Well,
How can I
Hmm.
help you? You know what I mean?
I'd love to throw this out as a devil's advocate to
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
because that's just how I roll.
Mm,
So there are people who have gifts and superpowers to be able to walk into a room and read the energy really well and connect with someone and kind of figure out something's going on. It's usually, in my experience and in the data that I have uncovered, it has to do with this level of attunement that you have that connects from like one individual to another based on some kind of a trauma. So, for example, I've had, a lot of traumatic things that happened in my life as a young child and as a leader and all the things with my son. And I can always spot the woman or the man in a room that is, that I'm speaking to or I'm connecting with or I'm coaching that has had a similar childhood. It is
mm,
like the craziest thing ever. And it's almost like we see the light and the darkness in each other. So there's a connection. And it's just about paying attention to the body language and to less about what they're saying, but how they're moving through the room, how they're sitting, how they're leaning in, how they're actually engaging when other people are talking. I can pick it out. It's just a
mhm,
crazy thing.
mhm.
So I agree with you. I think people who are not highly attuned to that, or maybe haven't come from a complete chaotic environment their whole entire life and had to learn that that's how you survive. You survive through like reading the room, reading the people, reading what's happening next, what's going to happen next. You're always like hyper vigilant.
Hmm.
When you don't have that, then you have to build the trust and you have to ask the right questions, be curious, do all of that. And that's okay. But for those that have been through hell and back, if you open up a little bit, you can see it, you can feel it.
Hmm.
And those people, it's like a moth to the flame. They come out of the woodwork for me. It's like,
Mm,
oh,
Yeah.
here's somebody that's had a traumatic childhood and I won't know them at all. And in 5 minutes, they're telling me this is what happened to me. I literally just came back from an event that I did in California. And this is what happened. First time meeting all these people. 4 out of the 15 women came up to me at break and were like, "Hey, Dawn, I really want to talk to you about something." I'd been in the room for literally an hour talking with them, and they just came to me. And there was
Wow.
this like psychological safety that had been created in that space. And the funny thing is, I picked it out. I walked in, I was like, I could just see it by the way they were moving through the room.
That's
It's kind
crazy.
of a crazy
That is crazy.
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
I felt it. I felt it too when I listened to your podcast with Jen, the alcoholic. You guys were in the room
Yes.
together.
With the mom?
Yeah,
The one that's the
the
mom?
mom.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she's gone through so much, with her son, and yeah, it was
but I
you're
felt that
right,
energy. Yeah,
because
like you guys like connected at a level, and I think the friendship was fairly
we
new
did.
too when you were
Brand
actually
new.
okay. And but the way she opened up and talked through her struggles and the way you were able to connect with her was pretty outstanding, pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be vulnerable
Hmm.
and just be able when I say that, that doesn't mean you tell everybody your stuff in the first 5 minutes that you meet them, because that's a real turn off. Nobody wants that. It's just this connection. It's very authentic and organic that you have to make when you meet people. But
Hmm.
I do think there are two types of people. I have seen this time and time again, and I'm a lived experience of it. The ones that have gone through craziness have grown up and learned that that's how they keep themselves safe. So they're hyper vigilant to what's going on around them,
Yeah.
and they're asking the right questions, and they're they also do make really awesome leaders. I've seen some fantastic ones, as long as they've done the therapy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Full disclosure.
Yeah.
Do the work, do the therapy, do the spiritual awakening, do all the things. Otherwise, you're just walking around wounded and you're getting caught up in everybody else's stuff, and you don't want that.
So now one thing that just came to my mind as you were talking about this, that I'm
Yeah,
almost like this almost deserves its own episode probably. So
let's do
I'm
it.
gonna, but I mean, like, genuinely wondering, like, what is what is trauma? Like, because
Mm,
trauma seems to me like it could reside on a very big spectrum and or very individual for people, and thus, like, some
mhm,
people, you say, like, hey, do the work, go do the therapy. A lot of people struggle with,
mhm.
like,
Yeah,
is what I went through, like, is what I went through trauma, or am I being too sensitive? Is it just me? Like, maybe I'm just being, maybe I just need to toughen up. Like, it's not, but they don't realize how much said trauma or said event
mm,
is impacting them.
yep,
So, like, they don't do the work because they don't realize the work needs to be done. Right.
right,
But, like, so,
right.
like, how do you even kind of understand what like, my experience might not be, you might have a lived experience that's like, whoa, like, you tell anybody, they're like, oh,
Yep,
okay. Other people might have an experience that, like, you know, it, was
yes,
tough, but most people aren't like, aren't, wowed by it, or if you will, you know what I mean? So, like, how do you
yes,
define what's trauma, what's not trauma,
right.
and how do you, and in solving for it, you know what I mean? Or recognizing that maybe other people share this same trauma with me or similar trauma. I don't know. I'm just curious,
Yes.
like, what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I also think that one person's trauma doesn't trump someone else's, right? They're all equal. They all just are, again, pieces of information that you have to figure someone out. So trauma really is not about what happened. It's about what happens inside you when you didn't have the support, the power, or the safety to process it. And so trauma is the nervous system learning that something isn't safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's really like the basis of trauma. It's
Mhm.
around like prolonged stress without relief. Like I'll give you an example. So my husband grew up in a awesome family. Like he's the middle child. He has great siblings, wonderful parents. They're fantastic, but they grew up with money being a big thing in their life, right? There's a lot of scarcity mindset going on in their family because that's a prolonged level of stress that was going on without any relief. And that created a certain piece of trauma for him that he doesn't always recognize. But I'm always the person to say, oh, it's your scarcity mindset. He loves when I say that to him.
Yeah, I bet.
But
I bet.
the, the prolonged amount of stress that his family had to, where he kind of knew there were money issues. Nobody really talked about it until they got much older, but he knew that things looked different and felt different. The kids went to school with hand me downs or things that weren't like the brand new latest pair of Jordans. Okay. So as a child, you're kind of registering that and it's information coming in like, oh, we're different. Something's off. And then there would be things where they couldn't take certain trips or what have you. So all of that was actually kind of a traumatic component to the way he interacts with money now and the way he looks at success and the way how he feels about money and abundance.
Yeah.
So that's a piece of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
right. So I
Yeah.
think
That's,
just
that's important.
all of that can be trauma. Trauma is not um, anything around being weak or overreaction or being dramatic or something that's only been caused by some extreme or violent event. I mean, you don't have to have survived war or some kind of a traumatic incident for it to be real.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think it's a
I
great
think
point
So
too.
I think the takeaway, DJ, for that for me, because I'm almost kind of like a
yeah.
reiteration, is trauma isn't really necessarily the event itself.
Mm,
It's more about
mhm.
how your body and or mind store the event. You know what I mean? And, like,
Yes.
how, like, and oftentimes might be the body or the mind staying in danger mode.
Yes.
You know what I mean? After
Right.
the danger is kind
You're
of
chasing the
gone.
bear's chasing you.
Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
Yeah.
the imprint. That's the best way to describe it. It's the imprint that the event or events that you had going on
Mm-hmm.
left on your nervous system. That's why I work with leaders about their nervous system first before we work on their strategic executive presence.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to get to where they want to be and have their seat at the table and all the things if they're not worrying about their nervous system first.
That's right.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
Don, tell us about as we kind of wrap here about Elevate X and some of the great work that you're doing and how some of the stuff that we're talking about earlier in the podcast applies to the work you're doing now.
Oh boy. Well, I will just tell you that I am so extremely proud of this company because I don't have anything to prove anymore. I think that's really, if that makes sense, I
Oh,
think that it just feels very authentic. It's a calling really that came to me. And I think, we talked a little bit about this. I think all of the over functioning and all the long hours and all the things that I put into my business for so many years,
mm,
I just think right now serving people, helping people come back to themselves is really what I'm most focused on. I'm less interested in fixing people or kind of saving the day in these organizations. I really want to create a space where someone feels seen and heard and strong enough to trust themselves again. So serving now looks very different, as I said in the beginning of our time
mm-hmm,
together. It
mm-hmm.
looks very, very different for me. It's more about presence and not the pressure of having to perform and succeed. That's probably the biggest thing that I
Uh-huh.
that I love about it. And I've learned that the hustle culture, which I do not subscribe to. I used to, but I don't is really expensive and exhausting. And the is alignment of ourselves of like really digging in and thinking like what's really going on? Why am I showing up this way in this meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Or why did I respond to my coworker that way? What's happening? That step back, that pause and kind of that look inward and grounding and alignment is the key to happiness and success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the key. So for me, for this company, what I love is going in and helping organizations figure that out.
Yeah.
Taking a room full of women or a group of women and men and helping them with getting out of that hustle culture mindset and showing them that they can still be successful and they can still have a seat at the table. In fact, they have a seat at the table already.
Yeah.
They just need to pull up the damn chair.
Is it?
That's
That's
it.
right. And
You know?
does anybody that goes through your program? I know we talked about when you and I had our first call, that act, share,
Yeah.
serve model. Is that a model that you
Yes.
teach to anybody that goes through your
Yeah,
program? I love that, by the way.
I do. I do teach that. And, that's deeply personal to me from what I shared with you
Hmm.
about being in that meditation.
Yeah.
There's no surprise that I'm a mindset coach and I love the mindfulness practice. And I have all these tools in my toolbox. And meditation is the first and foremost, the biggest one. It's what I start with every day. Next to that, I do my gratitude journal. So I was in a meditation when I heard that voice, a voice that said, act, share, and serve. And I think what I told you, DJ, is that at that time, it was all the chaos that was going on with my son. And I really thought it was about him and about the podcast. So I started that podcast right after that. And I think it was, but now that voice still comes up and I hear it again and again. And that's actually what was the catalyst for me to start my company. So serving now is for me, serve is presence. Share is honesty. And I think act is to choose movement, even when it's messy. Choose movement instead of just freezing and paralysis, like move when it's messy. So it means a little bit different to me now, but it's the 3 words that have literally changed my whole entire outlook on everything. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
No,
That's
I
great.
love that framework.
Real quick with Elevate X, you guys also
Yeah.
seem like what I've learned, I believe, is that you guys also do some executive search or like recruitment and placement talent.
Yes, I do.
There's a
Yeah.
talent placement component to what y'all are doing. I think that's really neat. I mean, some time ago,
Yeah.
you and I have kind of talked about this relative to like what we do at Limitless. We're getting in front of so much talent. We're obviously impacting a lot of the talent that might be currently existing at an organization, building some of that culture,
Mhm.
that framework, that foundational component. And then we've had companies come to us and be like, hey, listen, like, is there a way you can help us on this side as well? Because
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it seems like, if you're helping kind of develop talent, wouldn't it be great to kind of increase our batting average at having the right people in the right roles? And mindset's a big part of quickly. So
Yes.
that's interesting. And it makes a lot of sense to me without even really hearing about it from you yet. Like it makes a lot of sense. But anything you want to add to that, relative to that
I
side of it?
love that you said that. Thank you for saying that because I will tell you, this is one of the things that my husband and I have had like discussions over. I say that, and they're not arguments, they're discussions.
Uh-huh.
He's like, well, you've always been a search recruiter and you've always coached people. And now you're flipping it. So now you're doing the coaching really as the foundation of the company and the search business as a side part of it. He's like, but you're really, to me, like, you're really such a great executive search recruiter. You should just be doing that. And I'm like, yeah, that's not what it is anymore. Because that they go together is basically what we talk about.
Yeah.
And, because I will get a candidate, I'll get a search, and then I'll look through all the people that I have and who I know. And I will look for the cultural fit, the personality fit, the leadership fit before I ever look at the skill set.
Yeah.
Because I could have a perfect candidate that has all the buzzwords and they're not a great person to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to put them in a client of mine. And so what's great about this is I'm coaching people. I know them really well, and then I can go place them.
Mm.
Or I know the client really well and I've coached someone and now I'm like, hey, you two need to meet. So I kind of like this. It's a little bit like this love connection matchmaking service that I do.
Yeah.
And instead of here's a job order, Dawn, go find me someone, it's more like, hey, I've been coaching this executive who is amazing. Let me tell you about him. And that's kind of more what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it just feels, I don't know, it just feels more honest, more like authentic and vulnerable.
Well, I mean, it
Yeah.
seems like from a search. I mean, I've never worked in the search industry. I know you haven't been a top player in that space. Like from my observation,
Mhm.
it seems like um, what I've experienced both on the hiring side, somebody who's hiring a team and or been hired and
Yes,
going through the process. A lot of times you work with a recruiting firm, a search firm, and it does feel like you're just a number, like an extra, like you're one of how many candidates. Their job is just to get somebody in the seat. But like the way
yes,
you approach it here is a lot more concierge, if you will, white glove, DJ.
that's right.
Oh,
A lot more white
Sierge.
glove,
You
a
see
lot
how you put
more
that
I love
yeah, concierge.
concierge,
It's a
that
lot of
word.
white glove and then, like more like custom and curated to what the opportunity is, or when the opportunity doesn't exist, but you like you said, you have a sense for where the company's headed, transformational change that might be coming, what's worked for them in the past,
Hmm.
some of their heartaches relative to maybe this role in
Yep,
the past. And you can say, actually,
yep,
you know what, I've been coaching this guy named DJ Idson before, or for a long time, from a
right.
number of years, for a couple of years. Here's why he would be a fantastic fit potentially. You guys might want to connect. Um,
Really
so I think that's
smart.
really neat. Yeah, I'd love to
Yeah,
talk more
I
about
love
that.
that.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it works great.
there's two things we're gonna do here at the end. So the first thing,
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you a question around like some tools or a tool that someone can use in the next 24 hours to turn fuel or fear into fuel. So that's gonna be the first question. Then I'm gonna do some rapid fire questions. So, but the first one, like,
Mm,
what in the next 24 hours, what can somebody do to turn fear into fuel?
okay. I do this with my coaching clients. I want you to out loud or on paper name the fear. Just name it. Don't try to fix it, just name it. And then I want you to ask it, is this fear asking me to prepare or is it asking me to hide,
Hmm.
to protect? If it's asking you to prepare, just take one small step. Remember the story I told you earlier about one of my coaching clients
Mm-hmm.
where we took an actionable step for her meeting. If it's asking you to hide, I want you to breathe through it and don't let it decide. The answer will come to you. But you have to stop. You have to pause. You have to recognize that this is the fear. I'm going to write it out and I'm going to ask, what is this fear trying to prepare me for?
Yeah, I think that's powerful to write. Just the fact of writing
Yes.
something down is there's
Yes,
so much science behind how and why that works. So that's great.
it
All right.
does.
All right, now we're to the rapid fires now. All
Oh
right.
boy. Okay.
So
All right.
so what's a book that you always come back to?
Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul. All right.
Have you read it?
No. No, but
By Michael Singer?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
Okay. You two need to read it
Okay.
ASAP.
All right.
Write it down.
On the list. On the list.
It's called Untethered Soul.
Untethered Soul.
Michael Singer.
It's a beautiful book. Yep. And it's all around, it really integrates leadership so well,
Okay.
but it's not a leadership book, but you will love it. It's a very, very strong, centered spiritual book,
Mm-hmm.
but not too woo woo. In case people are not woo woo, I'm woo woo, but not everyone is.
We'll read it for sure. This is an easy one here. Daily ritual that keeps you grounded. I know you got one.
Oh boy, I have so many. I would say I set my intentions in the morning through meditation and I do a ton of breath work. I always create a little bit of space in between my meetings so that I can do some breath work in between.
Great. A belief you had to unlearn.
I have to hold it all. I have to hold it all together.
Okay. All right. This is from listening to your podcast. This is a selfish question here. Did your son get the job at Starbucks? Did he
Oh my
actually?
gosh, you're so funny. I know isn't that awful? I ended the entire podcast after running it for almost 2 years or 3 years with that one. And I've left everyone hanging. I really need to like pick it up. And
Yeah, people want to know
I
out here.
I know he did not.
Okay. That was
Again, he
an
just, he
unbelievable
wasn't right.
story though. And that
Yeah,
was an angel. That
mhm,
was an angel. That
I
there's
know.
no doubt. So if you
Oh,
hadn't listened
she
to it,
was.
yeah, she was pretty amazing.
Yes. We just have to pay attention to those signs. They're there
No question.
always. Yeah.
One word you would want leaders to replace with something better.
Proving to owning. Own your power, own your light, own where you are in your journey, own your seat at the table. Just own it.
Oh,
Just step in.
all right, last
Sorry,
one.
that was more than one
No,
word.
I like that. No, I like that. Own it. Own. Last one. Finish the sentence. Fear is trying to tell me.
Slow down, pause, listen, and choose on purpose.
Very good. Awesome. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for the time today. You are helping people overcome fear and
Um,
run at it, run right at it and with courage. And we
right.
appreciate that. We appreciate your energy and thanks for your time.
Oh,
Thanks, Dawn.
thank you. It was wonderful.
Very
You're
good.
amazing.
Appreciate
Thank you so much.
everything.
All right. Well, until the next time, Limitless Minds family, and just remember, you don't have to be sick to get better.